I'd like to start off with actually popped in my head when I was there, Shane Doan's story. It was Keith Kachuk night in Phoenix. I think they were putting him in the Ring of Honor. I don't know if you remember this, but ceremonial puck drop. Walt's out there. He's got the puck, and in typical Walt fashion, it's Captain Shane Doan, David Backus, come take the opening face off, and we're down there smiling, and he's shaking our hands afterwards. He goes, "Hey, how about you two fight off the opening draw for us?" And I'm going, this guy wrestles horses in the summers, growing up in Bible camp on a ranch, and I don't really want a piece of that, so I gave it the old funny chuckle, and thankfully we didn't fight off the opening draw. But later that game, we beat the Coyotes, which was kind of standard. But in Shane Doan fashion, their net was empty, and we had the puck down in our zone. It was the final seconds ticking off, and tough guy that he is, he took a run at our defenseman that was just trying to, take the last seconds off the clock. And I was on the ice for whatever reason at the end of the game, and I was like, well, here we go. This is going to happen. So I went and grabbed him, and we had a little wrestling match, and I felt the big, strong muscles on that man, and I'm glad we didn't fight off the opening draw, and I don't know if you remember that, but that stuck with me. I had plans for this whole speech that was kind of my story and how God has touched my life through this crazy hockey journey that I've been on, and over the past little while, had some new things pop up in my life, and felt a little prompting to take this in a different direction. So to not waste the months of preparation that I had on the other speech and all of that work, kind of my story of faith. I grew up in a Catholic home where I didn't have a new church coming to my ranch all the time. I had the Catholic religion, and I went through First Communion. I went through all the classes on Wednesday nights. I was confirmed, and I was growing up in the Catholic faith. My family was rock solid as well. We were at church every Sunday, whether I liked it or not. We did the stand-up, sit down, kneel down, read the Bible, King James Version, which is one step easier than Mandarin, I think, to understand. And after that, in high school, I was kind of a nerdy kid. I wasn't invited to all the parties, partly because I was a nerdy kid, and I had friends. Don't feel too bad for me, but they knew that I had my eyes set on a higher goal, and I had a moral standing where I think they knew if they invited me, I wouldn't be coming anyway. Went to junior hockey and had a little bit more leash, was put with a family that was 2 police officers in town. Mom was going to Lutheran church every Sunday. So even though I had a little more leash, I had something to pull me back into faith, into what God had in store for me. Explored a little bit of my boundaries a little bit more in junior hockey. Got to college where no parents around, no police officers looking over my shoulder. Was out on the weekends, kind of in the church on Sunday morning, praying off what I had done on the weekend, or looking for favor in the next weekend's hockey games for success, or kind of a superstitious type of religion. Got to sign a contract with the St. Louis Blues, and was in the minors, and found a little bit more freedom of what religion could look like. Had a guy named Bob Basson that came into my life and taught me a little bit about there's relationship with Christ, and got a little bit of a taste of that, but went back to my family's roots. Then I was a pro and didn't have much of a God and hockey connection when I was a pro. There was my first couple of years, the idea of them coexisting was extremely foreign. And I had a couple instances throughout my career that let my faith fully blossom, rededicated myself to a life in Christ, and now I'm here on a stage talking to all of y'all with a cross on a skate, which I think is just a beautiful, beautiful logo. I'd like to let you in a little bit of my pregame routine of what it sounds like, I guess, in my own head when I'm at the anthems playing. I might have a Red Bull or 2 in me. I'm all jacked up, but we always take a moment to stop and to pray. And so sounds a little something like this as I'm back and forth and trying to keep from jumping out of my skates and skating around while they're singing the national anthem. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to play this game today. Please protect me and my teammates as we go to this battle. Please let me use this platform to bring glory to your name and to show your light in me. Let me be a lion as you've displayed, and let me be a lamb when that's needed as well, Lord. In your name I pray. And so be careful what you pray for, because eventually you might be given an opportunity to use your platform. You'll be on a stage like this to share your testimony with a bunch of lovely people. So I'd like to talk about a little bit more of what's happened to me recently and some of the hardships. I know I've been blessed beyond all measures. I've been allowed to have this amazing hockey career, this amazing journey, this amazing platform. I've got an incredible wife who keeps me grounded. She keeps me dialed in and slaps me upside the head when I need it, thankfully, even though I don't like it in the moment. We've had 2 amazing children that are the loves of our lives. We're down in Disney with them and seeing their joy as we go through those theme parks, and they see the princesses or Winnie the Pooh or Toy Story Land, and they light up. That's just the greatest blessing we could have. But what do we do when something rocks us? And can we find blessings in those hardships? And what do we find our worth? So when something rocks us, how do we respond? And I think there's a kind of like the grief process. Like, you get rocked by something, you get bad news, you have something go wrong in your marriage, you get an addiction in the family, you got a death in the family, you can't get pregnant, you're having infertility, you got employment changes. Like, what's our reaction? And I think everyone, all of a sudden, you sink back and you get mad, you get all the stages. There's denial, there's bargaining, there's depression, and then there's agreement. But can we find those grateful, beautiful things and have perspective through those things to help us through those hardships? And I've had a few of those in recent past. I've had my role in this hockey world after 14 years diminished. Some injuries that have led to some of that. And while that's not an easy pill to swallow, it's something I've been able to find light in. My wife's helped me find perspective. Our chapel's helped me find perspective. My teammates have been rock solid for me. And what do we do? Can we find those blessings? Is it an opportunity to grow and to strengthen, or is it something that's just knocking us off our pedestal and we're worried about what kind of personal glory we're missing out on or that has been taken from us? Or are we looking to glorify God in those moments? Can we be an example of what strength looks like when you're going through hardship for other people to see? And for me, that's not always been easy, but that's, after time and reflection and prayer, that's the route that I've tried to go down. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." So God's telling you He's got a plan for you. He's telling you He's got a plan for you to prosper and not to be harmed. And can we live in that? Can we find solace in that? And can we be an example of that light in this world? Where do we find our worth? Is it in society and in culture and what TV has for us and keeping up with the Kardashians or whatever shows on the TV and what they're valuing? Or do we glorify God and we say, He's given us unconditional love, He's given us forgiveness, and He's given us grace, and we can find contentment in what He's given us. When I was here in St. Louis, I talked about a couple things that helped my faith flourish, and one of those, my second year here, I think I was golfing in Albert Pujols' golf tournament, was paired up with a guy named Kyle McClellan, pitcher for the Cards, and kept in contact with him. We were about the same age, and one day he invited me to a Bible study that was with Cardinal guys and Rams guys, and so I'm like, all right, I like breakfast. Let's go have a Bible study. We go to the original Pancake House in Clayton, show up, and maybe a little earlier than I wanted to. I was part of that That's Too Early group before I had kids, and I show up, and there's Trevor Rosenthal, and there's Kyle McClellan, there's Matt Holliday, and there's James Laurinaitis, and a couple other Rams guys, and I'm going, well, this is a good company. Let's see what we're talking about here, and we shot the bull about our families and ordered our pancakes and ate our pancakes, and all of a sudden we were opening Bibles and reading from a different translation of the Bible, something that I could read, something that made some sense to me. We were being ministered to by a chaplain that could pull out of those words what that meant to us. And then you listen to a guy like Matt Holliday talk about how when he's in a slump, what he's relying on, and he doesn't want to talk to the reporters because they're just digging him deeper, and if he can just get back to being Christ-centered, how he gets out of that slump a lot faster, and he doesn't have those ups and downs. And to me, that was extremely powerful of how this message that's in this Bible can be relatable to struggles that I'm having or to success I can have to glorify his name. In that, I found contentment. I found that I wasn't working to please reporters, or sorry to you all, but I wasn't looking to please the fans. I was looking to please God and give everything that I had so that I could be pleasing to the one who was unconditionally loving me, whether I was on the top of a mountain and the captain of a team that was, in the Stanley Cup, the Western Conference Finals in my last year here, or whether I was failing and not living up to whatever standards people had for me, and how much grief you can get because as much as the media loves to build you up, they love to tear you down. No offense, Doc, you build us up all the time, but everyone else maybe likes the other way. So Philippians 11 says, "I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances." And that was from Paul, who was in jail and had lost and was in persecution for what he was doing and spreading the Bible and spreading God's message. So I've had some hardships, I guess in my world, hardships. I know there's worse. There's families that are being torn apart and things like that, but I've been in the public eye, and some of the things that happened to me of injuries and reduced roles, and there was this big silver trophy that was competed for last year, and I was finally in my first Stanley Cup Finals, and it was against a team that I played 10 years for and bled and sweated and wore the C for, and the emotions that went through me. And then label on that I was healthy scratch for games 5 and 6 and 7, and it was, in retrospect, it was a beautiful display of what God's plan is like, because as tough as it was, and I wanted that cup with every drop of blood in me, and I am happy that this city did get it when I couldn't have it, but God's plan was, Game 7, you're going to the rink, and you're either going to leave there a champion or devastated that you didn't win that cup, and you have no control over it. You're sitting on the 9th floor of the TD Garden wearing a mouth guard so that you're not grinding your teeth to little nubbins because of the nerves that you got going on, and it's in your teammates' hands, it's out of your hands, and that's just going to be the way it is. And when that final horn goes, you're either going to be celebrating or you're going to be crying your face off. And I was dealt a little bit of the latter, and in time I found appreciation for that moment. I found appreciation for that opportunity to be in the Stanley Cup Final after 13 years of playing in the NHL. And now I get this year. Last week, I don't know if you're aware, but I was put on waivers for the first time in my 14-year career, where any team can just grab you for free. But most likely, if a team's putting you on waivers, they know a team's not going to grab you. And I was sent to the minors for the first time. So they didn't have me report through this All-Star break that we have because I had some plans with my family to go down to Disney. They may make me report afterwards. I'm not sure about that. But that was a big blow to play my first game maybe in the minors since 2006. But how do I deal with that? Am I content? Am I looking for God's glory in there? Am I being a light of how He would take that opportunity for growth, opportunity to strengthen, and looking for the bright side of it? Can I be a display of how God would come out of there with his head held high, taking the high road, not looking to shuffle that blame or that looking to make excuses? And through that, we've got a chaplain, and he's always asking us these deep questions. He's about my age, but he's wise beyond his years, and he's always like, what is this moment for? That's the question you should ask yourself. What is this moment for? Is it for getting down in the dirt and turning to a chemical or something to numb your feelings? Or are you supposed to stand up, show God's light, and get to the other side of it? The other thing him and his wife live by is live today as one day you will wish you had. Live today as one day you will wish you had. There's a lot of wisdom in that you can be able to not have regrets because you lived each day to the fullest and lived each moment to the fullest. So on my way out, I was put on waivers last Thursday. And our pastor back home, Bob Merritt, awesome man in a church, in Eagle Brook Church in Minnesota. He challenges us. He's kind of old school. He's a little bit older than I am, maybe Billy's age. Younger than you. So he challenges the church to write letters. He says, get out a pen and a paper and write a letter. The time and the effort and the love that shows to other people transcends any words that you can put into a text or an email. And maybe you got to put it in an envelope and pay, I don't know what it is, 50 cents to mail it to somebody. 45 cents, Billy knows, he's counting his pennies. And so on my way out, I was put on waivers. I wrote my teammates a letter and I put it on my change stall and cried my face off on the way out of the rink. And all of a sudden I was getting text messages and phone calls from my teammates, from other people that I hadn't talked to in a while, heartfelt messages of support and love. And I go, I appreciated all those, and they were emotional messages, but I go, why do we wait till something's over? Why do we wait till the end of your teammates leaving, or till a parent's on a deathbed, or a grandparent's on a deathbed, or a coworker, or a sister or brother, or an old longtime friend? Why do we wait till that's over to send those messages, to write those letters? What if we wrote those letters right now? Would we repair that relationship? Would we have that time together? Would we have that father figure, that mother figure back in your life, or that brother back in your life, so that you could rekindle that and not have regrets when it's all over? Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, his father passed away real recently, and I saw an interview with him, and he said, The Rock, he does everything. He's got all the personal accolades and the success, and he goes, I would do anything to just be with my dad one more time, to be able to tell him I loved him and say goodbye. And what if we didn't have that regret at the end? What if we sent those letters, or we said those things now, so that we didn't miss those opportunities? So I would challenge you to do three things. The first thing would be lean on God, His plan, His forgiveness, and His grace that He offers. To choose to have a grateful heart, to know that through all this, that you can find those glimmers of hope. You can point to those positive things and not dwell on the negative things. And you'd be surprised how quick those grief steps go through, and what kind of glory you can give to God through that process. And third, to write your letters now, to give those messages to people that could use them and that you won't regret ever sending. That forgiveness and that ability to send those heartfelt messages goes well beyond anything you can imagine, and the freeing sense that you get from that is incredible. I'd like to state a little bit on the change that I've seen in my 14-year career in hockey. I mentioned there wasn't much God-hockey connection when I first got in the league, and truthfully, my first road trip was to Denver, and before my first road hockey game, I found myself in a strip club drinking beers with a bunch of guys before my first NHL game. And the idea of God and hockey coexisting didn't exist. I didn't think other than maybe a cross necklace that was used as a superstition in the locker room, I don't think there was much of that being displayed, at least in my locker room. Maybe if I was in Donor's locker room, I would have had a little bit more of that. But there's always been a stigma of hockey players that are Christians are soft, or that they're weak. If we look at guys like Shane Doan, Mike Fisher, Adam McQuaid, guys that are tough as nails, guys wrestle horses in the summer. That stigma has dissipated to almost nothing. And I'm so proud that I could be a little bit of a part of that, and hopefully I'll be looked upon on that same light. I'd like to share one more story and then a quote if I've got time for that. We've got a chapel in Boston that we've got 10, 12 guys that regularly attend. I think it's one of the bigger ones in the NHL. And I think there's a chapel in almost every NHL room these days. And you see that He's doing great works in this league and spreading His message and using these great men with their platforms to spread the kingdom. And so on a group text message in March 2018, we share things, struggles, pray for each other. And one of the guys brought up the story or the song "Reckless Love," and if we're singing today, Billy, we don't have to sing, but the chorus goes something like, "Oh, your overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99." And I feel like God's done that throughout my career and throughout my life, that He's continually chased me and finally caught me in that Bible study, and as my family switched to a non-denominational Christian church where we had a relationship with Christ. And so we played the Minnesota Wild, state of hockey, right, Billy, in March 2018, and we had a Saturday off, played the Wild on a Sunday. So I said, what a great opportunity. I've got a great church there. I'll invite the guys in the chapel to come get a message at Eagle Brook Church. And I sent the message out figuring if I had a co-pilot in my truck, I was winning by inviting one more guy to church with me that weekend. I had 10 guys take me up on the offer, so we all went to church, and we're standing there in that row, and it was such an amazing vision for me. And the worship starts, and they crush it. It's like a rock concert. And the second song, in 2 notes, I heard it, and there it was. It was, "Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. It chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. Wow, like we were just texting about that. That's a sign that we're right where we're supposed to be. We're doing exactly what He had designed, and we're worshiping the one true God all together. The NHL, half an NHL team in church together. This is something special." So in closing, I'd like to quote another wise man, is known as Winnie the Pooh. And if you can keep this with you along with those other things, gives you great perspective. He says, "How lucky I am having something that makes saying goodbye so hard." Thank you for your time. Thanks for listening to me.